The first presentation is by the Coalition for Nuclear-Free Great Lakes, who are with us by telephone. Their presentation is based on PMD 14-P1.57. Mr. Keegan, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and joint panel review members and staff in all places. Thank you to Marie-Claude Belade once again, and I would like to say that my experience with the staffers over the years has been quite pleasant. Could I please confirm that you can hear me?
We can hear you, although we would ask that you speak fairly slowly.
Okay, very good. I do not anticipate my presentation will approach the 10 minutes. I will attempt not to be too repetitive, acknowledging that there are several others waiting to present. Previously, I presented in September 2013 on the cumulative impacts of proposed deep geologic repository project on the social fabric of communities immediate, adjacent, and surrounding the Great Lakes Basin. That was based on a literature review. My background is in sociology, but I also have been for 34 years tracking nuclear power in the Great Lakes Basin, and since Chernobyl, in the wake of Chernobyl, the Coalition for Nuclear-Free Great Lakes came together, and I serve as that chair. Previously, the Coalition for Nuclear-Free Great Lakes provided testimony October 2013, on the crisis of legitimacy that permeates the proposed deep geologic repository. The concept of legitimacy is most often challenged when transparency is lacking in the process. Transparency provides the daylight which allows for factually based social and scientific inquiry, which will ultimately lead towards decision-making. Without transparency, the trust in the process is tainted, resulting in distrust. Currently, there is mistrust and distrust of the existing Bruce nuclear complex after decades of real-life experiences. This mistrust is cumulative, and the mere announcement of a proposed deep geologic repository put forth by Ontario Power Generation compounds this mistrust. All discourse and processes going forward have potential of cumulative mistrust. In the United States, on the shore of Lake Huron and Lake Erie, we are seeing municipalities and governing bodies pass resolution after resolution in opposition to this proposal. The divisive impact potential on all communities at all levels has not been fleshed out. The literature review suggests that the DGR proposal has the potential of ripping communities apart, family by family, friendship by friendship, and doing so for generations. I had presented on the crisis of legitimacy, which results from lack of transparency in the proposed deep geological burial. Poor research design based on false and partial disclosures established methodologies which lack quality assurance. This same quality assurance, lack of quality assurance, I believe to be at the root cause of the WIP failure. Proceeding without full transparency from project conception has resulted in compromises that have potential of great harm to the Great Lakes Basin. Since my testimony in October of 2013, revelations have come forward that the proposed deep geologic repository is to now be modified to include decommissioning waste, essentially doubling the project volume. This was not presented up front at the onset of the proposal and should have been. The post-hearing revelations made public by Dr. Frank Greening implicate that the level of radioactivity to be placed in the DGR is far greater than what was being acknowledged. In short, this has been a classic bait and switch, a falsehood. The volume and elevated radiation levels were all known from the onset by the proponent, but this was not disclosed until the disclosure was forced into view. While the Coalition for Nuclear-Free Great Lakes appreciates the fact that joint panel review members has held additional hearings in part because of these revelations. The sincerity of the panel review will be suspect if the proposed DGR is allowed to proceed in phases to dig first and ask questions later. In the United States, the National Environmental Policy Act regulations prevent a project from going forward and breaking ground until the unresolved questions are addressed and or mitigated. To begin this project with so many unknowns of volume and toxicity is to bias what may be a final approval and certainly taints this process beyond reconciliation. I was upset to learn this morning about the steam generators going into the deep geological repository. It was alluded to large metal objects. These steam generators weigh 100 tons each, and there are 64 of them across the system. These are laced with transuranics. Cutting into these is a very messy proposition. At the Bruce, and I believe it's the Pickering plant, hundreds of workers were contaminated with alpha radiation because of work that they did around these steam generators. Moving forward with unresolved questions suggests that what is more important to the project proponents is that there is the illusion of a solution, rather than a sound scientific base supporting this now morphing deep geologic repository. The whole that is being proposed is far greater than meets the eye. Transparency is lacking from the onset, and what is becoming increasingly clear is that this is a confidence scheme, just as it is throughout the world. This promise of a solution provides the green light to generate more of which no one knows what to do with. This is an illusion and is a falsehood. Stop digging the proverbial hole. The alternative must be considered. Please employ a mechanism of full cost accounting so that the true costs going forward will be known. This con game should not be allowed to go forward. When I say full cost accounting, it comes to my knowledge that Bruce Power is dumping power at night. It's an economic boondoggle being subsidized in so many different ways. The power is not needed. To give them the green light on the DGR is to give them the opportunity to generate more nuclear waste with which no one knows what to do with. In the wings is quite Hydro-Quebec, which has tremendous amount of hydropower to be sold to Ontario at a very reasonable rate. These projects need to be taken offline. This reminds me of a song from Blue Oyster Cult, the song Godzilla. The refrain is, history shows again and again how nature points out the folly of men. Whatever is the ultimate solution is going to be a lesser of evil. Limit the problem now. Turn off the spigot, stop the production, and then we can put our heads together to figure out what is the lesser of the evils. What is the solution going forward? But to generate more of this waste is foolhardy. And that is my presentation. I will stay on the line. Thank you. I'm Michael J. Keegan with the Coalition for a Nuclear-Free Great Lakes.
Thank you, Mr. Keegan.